Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the next sessions, locally led innovation. What does it look like? And I have like six speakers altogether, say in 1 hour. So I'm sorry in advance because you'll be talking only 5 minutes. But before I invite you to speak, I would like to ask Saliha, the Bardix, a senior climate specialist of the adaptation, to give an introduction of these panels.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Laude, for the introduction. My name is Saliha Dobardzik, and I lead the Programming and Innovation at Adaptation Fund. And I'm very pleased with Innovation Days, which is, as you know, the series of events that you may not know are we're putting on for the first time. And for those of you who've attended the other events of the Innovation Days, you have seen that the discussion has been so vibrant and so rich that we actually ran out of time during the last session, and hence we're starting a little bit late. So I'm going to keep my remarks short, but I do want to reflect a little bit on what we have seen in the last, yesterday and the previous session, and how that ties into the current session. So basically, the Adaptation Fund, as you may know, has been established through Kyoto Protocol and now serves the Paris Agreement. It's a fund that serves all developing countries that are party to either the Kyoto Protocol or Paris Agreement. The fund pioneered the direct access modality, which channels funding directly to national institutions. And it also has since then piloted the so-called enhanced direct access, which devolves funding further to local organizations. And so when the LLA principles were established, we endorsed them right away because they were fully in line with the work that we have been doing and aspire to do more of. Now, the fund currently has a strategy that covers 5 years. It's a new strategy that was launched last year, so it covers 2023 to 2027. And one of our three strategic pillars is innovation. And what we're trying to do is encourage new innovations and risk-taking to accelerate the development of innovative adaptation practices, tools, and technologies, replicating and scaling up successful innovations, enhancing access and capacities for designing and implementing innovation initiatives, and to generate evidence base and share it. So this is basically how we see innovation, and a lot of the work that we're seeing so far results that we're seeing so far are coming through the so-called Adaptation Fund Climate Innovation Accelerator, which is a partnership currently between UNDP and UNEP together with CTCN, whereby small grants are provided for innovation, and therefore at local level, the various innovators are able to access them. And so with that, we are going into this I'm very excited to go into this panel. We have just heard a bit about innovation, what it means on a sort of different levels. Adaptation is so varied and different, multi-sectoral, and it's a complex challenge. But now we get to see some concrete examples of how it can work. So thank you for joining, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Saliha. And next, I would like to invite Dr. Sadiq Adev, UNDP Regional Advisors on Climate Change Adaptations. 3 minutes.
I'm going to rush through. Okay. Thank you, Sharif. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, all. I'm Radhika Dave. I'm with UNDP. I'm a regional technical advisor and also the focal point for nature-based solutions for adaptation at UNDP. So first of all, I want to say thank you to all the panelists, the organizations that are here, and to the Adaptation Fund for this session here, for coming together to share insights from a diverse set of experiences. So, colleagues, we are seeing the impacts of climate change every day all around us, with increasing severity and increasing frequency. We need urgent action, and we need to scale up innovative adaptation approaches across the world. So what is this innovation? Innovation is not only through new technologies, though that is extremely important, but also through innovative practices, local action, business models, and approaches that promote behavioral change and that promote the capacity to build that resilience in the social, ecological, and political economic system. At UNDP, with support from global funds such as the Adaptation Fund, the GEF, the GCF, we've been working, and bilateral donors, we've been working with countries and communities on adaptation practice and on scaling adaptation since 2008, gaining insights from a portfolio of over 200 projects spanning 93 countries. What are these projects? Many of these projects are innovative in their own ways for their specific context. Some are groundbreaking. Some deploy a mix of technologies such as Internet of Things and mix of practices such as integrated landscape-level climate resilient agriculture and nature-based solutions to advance adaptation. One example is the initiative that brings us together here, which is the Adaptation Fund Climate Innovation Accelerator. It was launched in 2020 with support from the Adaptation Fund, works to advance locally led innovation through a small grants program. And as Saleha mentioned, it's a partnership with UNEP CTCN, national implementing entities, as well as UNDP. With the support of the Adaptation Fund and the EU, the UNDP program on AFCIA is implementing over $16 million, supporting 44 organizations in 32 countries. The program is facilitating greater innovation at the local level, and we are on track to support the development of over 20 scalable, innovative solutions benefiting over 640,000 people, 47% of whom are women. The AFCIA program grantees have achieved remarkable outcomes, examples including raising over $1 million through crowdfunding efforts, undertaking large-scale restoration, implementing regenerative agriculture across 2,000 hectares, and so on, documenting over 50 traditional knowledge-based climate change adaptation measures. And today we will hear from 6 different partners through this initiative and through this partnership. I want to say that the experiences that our panelists will share today are indicative of the ways in which truly transformative adaptation is possible through community-driven action, through innovation, and through that context at the heart of it. And I want to conclude by welcoming everyone and thank you again to our partners and to Sharif for moderating this session. And I hope that was 3 minutes, but thank you. And I look forward to the panelists. Thanks.
Yes. Let's give us like a round of applause for our 2 hosts from Adaptation Funds and from. Thank you very much. It was like 4 minutes altogether because I actually timed it and it is very well done. I think I would like to introduce myself. I'm Laude Muhammad Sarif, Executive Director of Kemitron. We are accredited Adaptation Fund and Green Climate Funds. Today we have another 6 speakers. So I hope they can actually contribute in how the importance on, especially on locally led adaptation. And we will have like Omar Saleh. He will be actually join us online. To make it short, I would like to invite Andre Luis Gonzalez, coordinator of Centro Ecológico in Brazil. Please, 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. I will need these slides.
Yes. Yeah, if you want to slide, it just you can actually control it by yourself.
Stop the watch, please.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And well, thank you very much. And it's really a pleasure to be here. And I really thank you for the Adaptation Fund. And I'm going to talk about my project, Combining Income and Forest Protection in Southern Brazil. So just a little bit of a background. And I work for a small organization called Centro Ecológico, and we've been working in this region for more than 30 years. And we work with smallholders to implement agroecological systems. And then this is perhaps it's my first message, is that social environmental changes, it takes time. And so, and I think it's very important to have permanent funding, to have patient funding. So I think that's my first message related to innovation. To promote innovation, we need to have some tranquility to do the job in the field. And the previous speakers talk about agroforestry system. I don't need to go very much into the agroforestry system. But again, and I think that one of the things that specifically related to agriculture, and mainly in my country, Brazil, is to kind of decolonize the idea that we have about agriculture. Agroforestry is agriculture. So it's to respect the patterns of nature, to work with nature rather than removing the forest to produce food. And one of the projects, this project that we have, it's using a neglected crop called açaí, neglected crop in the context of the Atlantic forest. Of course, açaí is very famous in the Amazon region, but what we are doing is to use a plant of the same genus of the açaí from the Amazon, but to produce the açaí in the Atlantic forest. And in the region that we've been living and working, the main cash crop is banana. And what we've been doing is to stimulate farmers to cultivate the palmito, the palm heart, not to extract the palm heart, the palmito, but to produce the açaí. And I think that's one novelty as well. It's an innovation in the sense that they are not using the species to remove the palm heart and then compromising the species. And this species particularly has a key importance to conserve the Atlantic forest. And that's the açaí. And another innovation, we are not just working in terms of production. We are working the whole production chain. We are working since the production, stimulating farmers to cultivate the palm, but also we are creating commercial opportunities for the farmers. So we are not just working to increase the production. And since this project, we are also working with the indigenous people living in the area, the Mibiá Guarani. We are working issues of food security and also to recover their land. And we are using the açaí as an entry point to work with these communities. I have some pictures here. And also we are working with local schools. And by the Brazilian legislation, there is a national program called the School National Feeding Program, that at least 30% of the budget to purchase food of these schools must be used to purchase food from family farmers. So what are we doing? The farmers are cultivating organic banana with açaí, and then they are selling through their organizations, through their cooperatives to local schools. So kind of we close a loop of producing, marketing, and then working with food security with local schools. And that's some of the pictures. And in my right here, it's the indigenous Mibiá Guarani. And in my left, it's one of the students that that we are working with the local schools. Well, it was supposed to come slowly. So again, it's what I call a virtual circle of production and consumption. We are stimulating agroforestry system, protecting biodiversity, and also creating resilient systems, and then income opportunity for smallholders, indigenous people, and working also with food security, implementing public policies, and then closing what we call this circular economy or virtual circle. Thank you. 5 minutes? Huh?
Wow, this is really 5 minutes.
Sharp?
Yeah, 5
Yes.
minutes sharp. I think you are the best control in this room.
Without the
So
watch.
thank you very much. And I
Thank you.
think it's now very good actually presentation of Andre Luis Gonçalves. For example, he just introduced us locally innovative adaptation on the marriage between acai and banana for the food security. And the next, I would like to invite our speakers online, Omar Saleh, CEO on Zephyr Consulting, to talk about adaptive solution on enhancing resilience against climate-induced flood and drought. You have 5 minutes, Mr. Saleh.
Yeah, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me well. And the presentation, should I share it myself?
Yes, I think better.
Okay, so
Yeah, you can actually share it yourself. Yeah.
okay, that's fine. That's even better. Okay, so thank you all for having me here today. Unfortunately, I cannot attend physically, but I'm glad to be here online. So I want to talk to you about a project we did in Burundi, in Africa. Burundi, much like other countries in Africa and actually all over the world, they have issues with both flooding and drought. That's something we see quite often, that countries, they have issues of excess water during flood situation. The flooding causes a lot of damages, but that same water that is actually causing the damages is actually valuable in other times of the year when there's drought. Now, what we try to do with our solution is we want to control that. We want to make sure that, first of all, the flooding doesn't cause any damages, and at the same time, that water that is valuable due to heavy rainfall, we want to capture that. And the solution we have for that is the slam dam technology, which is developed in the Netherlands. Slam dam is basically a rubber flood barrier. So these are rubber bags that you fill with water. It's a modular system. Each component is 5 meters in length and has 2 compartments, and each compartment has to be filled with water. And this design allows for the barrier to withstand very high pressure from outside. Where we distinguish ourselves from our competitors is that we use EPDM as a material. EPDM is a synthetic rubber, and it has some unique features. So it's UV resistant, ozone resistant. You have a lifespan of more than 40 years. So there's really long lifespan if you compare it to other solutions. It's easily deployed, and you can use the water also for drinking water, and for irrigation purposes. And to our knowledge, we are the only ones that are TUV certified. And our solution is very scalable. One of the reasons is that it's easy to use. We deploy a slam dam all over the world, and communities with people who don't have any technical backgrounds, no educations, they are able to use slam dam in less than half a day. We can train them, and they can use it immediately. And that's also a big advantage of our system if you compare, for example, to conventional measures like engineering works or, for example, nature-based solutions. With slam dam, you can create impact directly. So there's no engineering work, for example, or nature-based solutions can take years or sometimes decades for to realize impact. And with slam dam, you can realize impact directly. So it's easily stored in boxes. You take the boxes to the location, connect hoses to them on a pump, and then you can start filling them with water. That's how we did it also in Burundi. One of the advantages of slam dam as well is that it can be used in different circumstances: agricultural land, residential land, warm conditions, cold conditions, which also makes it very scalable. The project we did in Burundi is we first did an analysis to get an understanding of the flood risks in that particular area. This helps us understand, okay, how can slam dam best help that region? We manufacture slam dam accordingly. according to the dimensions. We trained the people on site. So these are just community members, and they were able to deploy SlamDam independently. They're using it more as a semi-permanent solution during the entire flood season. So for a couple of months, they deploy SlamDam. This helps prevent flood damages. But then the rest of the year, they're using it as a reservoir. And this helps increase their agricultural production. So that's how we try to tackle both issues, both flooding and drought, using this technology. I think it was a very successful project, especially if I look at the local stakeholders. I think the numbers were quite good, the benefits we were able to realize. And if I look at the key takeaways for us, we realized immediately impact. So from the day we implemented SlamDam, they were able to use it for flood prevention and for irrigation purposes. It's highly scalable in Burundi itself, but also in other countries. But we did notice that there's a lack of financial resources in Burundi, especially in Burundi, but also in other developing countries. And there's a need for that. So there's a need for this solution. There's a need to scale up, but they lack in the financial resources. So these were the key takeaways for us. And obviously we tried to relay this to the international national objectives, such as the Sustainability Development Goals. So this was in a nutshell. I was hoping it was within 5 minutes, but I'm not sure.
Thank you very much, Mr. Saleh. It is 3 minutes 45 seconds. So you are actually still have 1 minute, but actually thank you very much for introduction of Slam Dunk, the Slam Dam. But I think it is very good innovation for Burundi, and maybe it can be replicated in many other areas. From Burundi, we will move to Bhutan. I'm invite Pusto Choden. Also 5 minutes.
Hello, it's working. A very good afternoon to every one of you here. My name is Pincharan, and I'm from Bhutan. And so today I'm going to talk about the project that was funded by Adaptation Fund. So my project is on building adaptive capacity through innovative management of pests and disease and invasive alien species in Bhutan to enhance sustainable biodiversity and livelihoods. So let me first start with why we are doing this grant. So let me start with climate change impact in Bhutan. So Bhutan is a first carbon negative nation, but we are still feeling the impacts of climate change impacts in Bhutan. So Bhutan is a predominantly agriculture society. So agriculture in Bhutan employs around 80% of population, and of which 80% of are women. So most of these are like small local farmers and communities who will suffer disproportionately from the effects of climate change through food insecurity and disrupted agriculture production, despite living in the carbon negative nation and contributing the least. So most of these villages across Bhutan are highly vulnerable to climate change impacts and have low adaptive capacity attributed to their limited resources base and precarious economy status. Oh, what happened to my slide now? Okay. So, next. This one. Wait, I need to go back. So due to this climate change impacts in Bhutan, so small holder farms and communities feel the heaviest impact. So climate change is having a direct threat to livelihoods and the future of Bhutan as a nation, with temperature increasing in Bhutan by 1.0 degrees Celsius in the last 27 years, with the early rise by 0.0378 degrees Celsius, and with this effects is going to worsen it. So most villages across Bhutan are highly vulnerable to climate change impacts and have low adapted capacity attributed to their limited resource base and precarious socioeconomic status. So in the Mongar, which this project is happening, has like 63.2% of the population depend on agriculture, so which is higher than the population engaged in agriculture at national level, which is 51.1 percentage. So my presentation slide is coming different here. So in particular, the emergence and spread of these pests and diseases and invasive alien species and the lack of preparedness, technology, and capacity to implement adaptive measures for these threats has devastated communities and agroeconomy in our country. So also an increase in rainfall and temperature has a direct correlation to invasive species with significant rise during monsoon season. So the frequent outbreak of invasive giant African land snails in this area since 2010 had impact on the livelihood of the communities in the area. So listed as this invasive snail, which is listed as one of the 100 invasive species in Bhutan, this snail feeds on over 500 varieties of vegetation such as trees, vegetables, crops, and is of great concern to the farmers in our country. So to this problem, so we have a solution. So the solution to Bhutan first our base and invasive species management strategy. So snails are also known to harbor nematodes that cause magnetitis, and if it is not handled properly, it's a great concern for human health. And even without climate change, the gulls have shown devastating impacts on the ecosystem and the environment. So in Bhutan, some of the crops affected by gulls are mangoes, papaya, cabbage, tomatoes, sweet potato, bananas, which are of the major cash crops for farmers in country, and this does not include the natural vegetation. So due to its high productive rate, the pest grows and multiplies quickly, thereby making their management challenging. So using the objective and concrete steps about the project, this project is aiming to have a taping systems adapted to Bhutan for gulls management. So with this project, we are going to have protocols and response developed, and that this technology is going to scale up to other areas. We are going to have strategies. We're also going to have data and models generated for pest management, and we are also going to generate innovative ideas, knowledge sharing, and managing pests and disease. And we're going to have this innovation promoted, and we're also going to involve our communities, and we're also going to train them. So through this program, we're also going to engage around 150 farmers, 60 male and 90 female, for the application of technology. And they're also going to be a targeted direct beneficiaries of the project. So trapping system innovation. So these traps are crafted from very simple yet efficient materials available to the community. So some of the commercially available traps are bait and barrier technology, which could include snail and slug trap, snail blaster, and slug mat, among others. So the bats used for this trap is generally banana, papaya fruit, or commercially produced snail buster bait. Other methods used are the chlorine slug and snail killer paralysis, and the chlorine slug and snail easy kill gel. So this technology, they use sodium ferric and iron phosphate as a baits, both which are safe to use around pets and wildlife, and the uneaten baits they degrade naturally. So since my moderator is letting me giving me some signals to jump forward, so let me see. Let me talk about the innovation in action in our country.
Can you conclude instead?
So let me just finish in few minutes. Maybe just give me a few minutes. So this innovation is going to be our first Bhutan's first ever invasive species action plan. So this will also contribute to the global databases and solution forums to enhance international climate collaboration and provide a valuable track record for Bhutan as we enter an era of climate effect management in the next few decades. So with this program, we are also going to have an invasive species free future. So trap usage in Bhutan it's going to be very simple, it's going to be very cheap, and it's also going to be locally available. And we are also going to involve community, and we are also going to train them, and also we are going to promote best practices through strengthening of local communities. We're also going to engage civil society organization, and we're also going to involve government institution. And with this, we are also going to develop a long-term strategy or framework for management of pests and disease in our country. And we're also going to involve youth through competition to support these innovative ideas.
Thank you.
So let me touch on last the top 3 key takeaways. So scaling climate action in Bhutan. So action advances the strength of food security system and agricultural resilience in the face of climate change. So we're also going to introduce and educate local population about new technology that is conducive to climate adaptation and mitigation from the grassroots level. So this scalability also enable climate action
I'm
and
sorry,
gender
Pushpa, you have to conclude now.
and youth inclusion in multiple levels. We also allow this youth for education and growth beyond the initial project, promising a sustainability into the future. So sorry, thank you.
Thank you very much. Because it is actually past 5 minutes, so I do not want to say it. How many minutes that you should pass your, for the 5 minutes. The next, I would like to invite Mr. Gideon Blow, the director of Clean Tech Hubs. I think he'll be talking about sustainable finance and community development in Colombia. Welcome.
This is a different presentation. Yeah.
You can use this one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's working.
It's working. Okay, very good. It's like version 0.1, but it doesn't matter.
Should I go back to those?
Oh, wait a minute. This is the new one. Yeah, this is the new one. No, is it? Yeah, this is the one. Can I go back? Yeah. Okay. Well. All right. Sorry. Okay.
You can start.
Okay, very good. So good afternoon. My name is Gideon Blau. I'm with Clean Tech Hub, talking to you about what we do with Clean Tech Hub. So Clean Tech Hub started out in 2019. It's been going on for already 5 years. We've supported over 400 different climate solutions. You can visit our website and see roughly 100, 150 different climate solutions in different stages. We support climate entrepreneurship in the sense that we, through different programs, entrepreneurship programs, we support these climate entrepreneurs in ideation, incubation, and acceleration stages. Very important to know is that we built on this because it was, let me see, I have to go back. Where's this need coming from? What we see, and this is already theorized by Geels back in 2001, if you're looking for social innovation to really become mainstream, it is very difficult for niche innovations to come through. So you need to focus on support for those let's say climate entrepreneurs. So it's even worse for climate entrepreneurs, climate startups. For them to become mainstream, there's so many resistance that they're facing from governments and private sector, but we still need to have them at the table if we want to scale them. So something we discovered pretty soon is that just being an entrepreneur support organization is not enough. And it was mentioned here before already by Andy from Climate Kick. You need to have this ecosystem where you support these climate entrepreneurs. So it's very crucial that you build out that climate, that let's say that ecosystem that has different actors like private sector, like government, like universities involved. So just to highlight a couple of these innovations, one of them I'd like to mention is Sunco. It's a solar company in Colombia. What are those, let's say, gaps that we see in Colombia? Colombia is a country of 50 million people. 5 million people live in the so-called non-interconnected zones, what basically means that these people are not connected to the grid. So how can you service them? Government is not able to get there. Public energy companies don't have the business model, don't have a viable business model to connect these people. So you need other business models like a decentralized, vertically integrated, let's say, technology stack that is Sunco offering. They are the ones that are connecting the communities: water, energy, internet. Another solution is Novatio. It's a biodigestor company. Biodigestion is a natural-based solution. It's been with us for thousands of years. So why now, right? That's into the next slide where I'm talking about the convergence of technologies. You see the same thing with solar. Solar has been with us for 50 years, but has not been able to scale, especially in those zones. Why? Because you need also other elements of technology. Fintech. You need telecommunications. With those solutions, you now on your phone, you can pay your energy bill. That was not possible before. The other element is social innovation. And I believe the director from Oranos was referring to it yesterday. He said, well, he doesn't believe it's about technological innovation. And I think he's right, because there's a combination with social innovation. So what is the business model that you're going to bring to these communities so they're going to accept that type of solutions? Creative destruction, I landed that one from Schumpeter, the economist, basically saying that if you talk about innovation, you talk about creative destruction. Yesterday we had a discussion, what is innovation? We refer to it as a creative destruction. So does a business, private sector, really want creative destruction? No. They want iteration. They want the iPhone 14 turned into an iPhone 15. That's iteration. That's not innovation. But they need to be at the table. Why? Because they're the ones that could invest in these future disruptive solutions that they're then going to be adopting. And then the final point, and this is with regards to self-efficacy, and this is a study we did with local universities where we discovered that, especially because entrepreneurship in Latin America is something that is often born out of necessity. I don't have a job, I create my own, so I become entrepreneur. So there's entrepreneurs out of necessity, and then there's the entrepreneurs out of opportunity. So what we see is the ones that get funded are mostly the entrepreneurs that do it out of opportunity. And those are the ones you want to support. You need to identify this. So this is a great insight for us, because it helps us in selecting the right entrepreneurs to support, so we can connect them to the right people later on in their, let's say, entrepreneurship careers. So it's not about scalability just at the startup level. It's also about us as a hub scaling into the region. We've been doing this for 5 years. We're looking into scaling this into Central America. We're doing this not just by ourselves. We get, of course, the support from UNDP and from Adaptation Fund. Andy from Climate Cake, I don't think he's now here, but he's also one of the supporters with our program in that sense. So what are some of the lessons learned that we see? We talk about innovation, and oftentimes it's like this magic in the middle thing that we cannot really grasp, but we see it as the way to get to the SDGs, or as the way to meet, let's say, the Paris Climate Accord. But we need to be a lot more tangible, especially with our startups. So what we do with our startups is try to identify your scalable unit that you can measure in order to identify what is your impact, right? So if you grow as a business, because now impact is part of your DNA, and you have identified, let's say, the mitigation metric or the adaptation metric, now you can go to your impact investor and say, okay, for you to invest into this, it is very important that we can just keep track of the sales, and by every product or service that you sell, you're also increasing your impact. Almost there. Hardware, and so these are a couple of key messages that I'd like to, something that we learned along the way. Hardware versus software. A thing that we discovered with a lot of the early stage impact investors, they say, hardware, difficult to invest in, we focus on the software. And we say, well, you need to focus also on hardware. Look at the energy transition. We have so many, let's say, oil refineries and other types of infrastructure. We're not going to replace that with an app on the phone, right? So who's going to make that investment? You cannot ask them to drop the hardware and say somebody else is going to do this. The people because that's still the case. Let's wait for solar panels coming out of China. No, you need to have an integrated solution there. So it's very important to do this. The second learning also what we saw is that, Yeah, okay. Adopt to adapt. You need to adopt it in the local community. So you have to have that conversation with the local communities. Collaboration is clear. Want to refer, the final 10 seconds, Bernard yesterday from World Food Program, as well as Aloy from UNIDO was mentioning it, the fact that you need to support through acceleration programs these local adaptation solutions in the region. And that's what we want to do as Cleantech Hub. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have two more important speakers. Next, I will invite Ms. Gina Srouchi, Principal Engineer at HR Wellingford. She's maybe talking about land surface modeling.
I'm going to actually talk about drought forecasting in
yeah,
St.
yes,
Kitts and
okay.
Nevis. Great. So yeah, this is a project that we completed recently, working together with the Department of Environment in St. Kitts and Nevis. So just to give you a bit of background, droughts today affect more people than any other natural disaster, and they result in serious economic, social, and environmental costs. In St. Kitts and Nevis, in the Caribbean, the country has been in serious drought since about 2015. And there are significant periods where the residents are affected by water shortages. And under climate change, we know that this is only projected to become worse and worse. So what we can try to do for that is to develop these drought early warning forecasting systems so that the local authorities can take early action to prevent the damage. The operational use of drought forecasting systems has been very limited so far. And the reasons for that are multiple. I tried to outline some of the key challenges here that we face in, people who work in this area. So the science of drought forecasting is challenging in itself, but then when you try to implement these systems operationally, you come across a lot of issues with data. There's often no data sharing between different agencies. The forecasts can be often unreliable, and that means that the end users end up losing trust in the system. There's sometimes changes in political agendas, which means that drought prevention is not prioritized. The cost of these new technologies can sometimes be too much for them to be maintained and become sustainable. And there's sometimes a mismatch between what the end users expect and what science can actually provide at the moment. So a lot of challenges to consider there. We've had, just without getting into too much detail on the technical side of things, a drought forecasting system comprises different components. So we have some hydrological models, on-the-ground observations, remote sensing data, and weather forecasts. And when you try to build a system for each country, you have to have a lot of engagement with end users in the country, the local governments, to make sure that whatever system you build is fit for purpose. So these were some of the key considerations that we took into account when we were building the system. It had to be monitoring the droughts, but also to be providing forecasts. It had to be using satellite data, which cover both islands fully. It had to be easy to use by the practitioners on the ground. So after a lot of workshops and discussions with end users in the country, we came up with this web-based system, which you can see here. And it's the website here is designed to communicate these drought forecasts to practitioners who work in the water sector, but also in the agriculture and disaster risk reduction sector in St. Kitts and Nevis. In developing this system, and this is another snapshot of it, we try to make sure that it's designed to be modular. And the key reason for that is that we wanted it to be able to be scaled up and to be replicated to other countries that face similar challenges. So this graphic here is showing the different components of the system. So the blue components are some off-the-shelf we call them components, which can be easily adapted to a new country, a new location. And then we have the more customized components, which need tweaking and adapting, and it takes a bit more time to prepare those. But overall, this system has very low costs to be set up and to be maintained operationally. The key requirement for setting it up is to have this strong stakeholder engagement with people on the ground so that it can be tailored to make sure it meets their specific needs. And then I thought I'd close my slides. I'm skipping a few here with a slide on sustainability because it was mentioned earlier. So sustainability is always a risk, I think, for developing for projects that are in developing countries, but it's more so a bigger risk when we're talking about new technologies and new systems, innovations, because they are often complex and they come at a cost, and a lot of the stakeholders are not familiar with these new technologies and with what is potential to be achieved. So I think the key thing in making these systems sustainable is to work early on with people on the ground, your end users, co-design the methods and the tools, and have a lot of capacity building activities and strong presence in the country to make them sustainable. And then you create that ownership, which carries on after the end of the project. So that's it. That's the end of my presentation. And I hope I stayed within time.
Yes, thank you very much. It is within time. Yeah, our next speaker, she is the last, but she is the most important one. Simply because among the panelists, only one person that actually have a green in their name. Yeah, so Tamara, Greenstone, the Jade, Alefire. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. What I was going to say is that I'm last, and for the first time in my life, I'm going to try to be the least and do my best to be as quick as I can. I'm going to start my timer too, just to be like, sure. Anyway, Kasalele Manko, Yakwe, and Talofa, I'd like to acknowledge everyone in the room. Thank you for being here, and especially my colleague from Samoa, another island in the Pacific. I'm originally from this country, from Canada. About 23 years ago, I found myself going from this beautiful country to Micronesia and, fell in love, and the rest is history. But I've been there for 23 years, and I'm here representing the Micronesia Conservation Trust. MCT is an organization based in Federated States of Micronesia, Pohnpei, but we work in 3 independent countries, the Federated States of Micronesia, the Republic of Palau, and the Republic of the Marshall Islands. We also work in 2 U.S. territories, Guam and the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas. Guam and CNMI are Pacific Islands. They're Micronesian islands with indigenous Chamorro people, and we support community efforts there. If you don't know where Micronesia is, think about Japan and Hawaii, and then all those islands north of the equator that make up thousands and thousands of islands. They call the Pacific small island developing states, but I think one of our leaders quite a while ago suggested that we're big ocean nations, not small island development states. I use this slide always to sort of frame any conversation. I think everyone in the room we're all working in adaptation, mitigation, and we're all very familiar with climate impacts. I think it has been said before that the Pacific, and specifically the northern islands of Micronesia, where there's mostly atolls, which are very flat and very low to the ground. I think we've been called the canary in the coal mine in terms of climate impacts. All 4 of these photos I took myself over the 23-year span of my time there. You've got coral bleaching, of course, you've got 2 flooding, and then you have significant drought. And I just wanted to put that up there for the impact. So I'll be really quick with this because I think we've all talked a lot. Basically, in most of the Pacific, fisheries is not just sustenance. It's important for people's survival. It's important for our economy. Most of the tuna that we eat at our sushi stores come from the yellowfin tuna industry in the EEZ of Micronesia and the South Pacific. But it's also, and I think the opening speaker yesterday was very eloquent in her way of sharing that, it's also what I've been really lucky to learn living in Micronesia is that the act of fishing and the act of bringing fish home to your family and to your community is is completely ingrained in your culture. So we're not just at risk of losing sustenance or economics, we're also at risk of losing culture. Let me see, what else was I gonna say here? Yeah. So I think in terms of the questions that were asked for us to answer, so the innovation for our project, so we have an adaptation fund project. I should say that Micronesia Conservation Trust is also the smallest entity in the world to be accredited to both the Green Climate Fund and the Adaptation Fund, for which we're quite proud of. So our project, as has been highlighted a lot already, I think it's really important to consider that innovation doesn't always have to be new, and it doesn't always have to be high tech. So for us, our project is around marine protected areas. The Marine Protected Area project that is long part of the culture of Micronesia, and then as time has gone by, the work of Micronesia Conservation Trust. We look at marine protected areas as a conservation organization. We look at marine protected areas not just because we love fish. We look at protected areas not just because we love trees, but we look at the importance of conservation for the future of people and for sustenance. And in order to be able to adapt to climate change, our organization sees building and supporting strong ecosystems and the services in which they provide is a way for the cultures and the people to be resilient to those impacts that we just saw on the slide before. So what is our project? Basically, our project exists with a number of different important aspects, and the Adaptation Fund project is supporting one of those. So what do we have? We have coral reef monitoring. So we have a 12-year ongoing science program where we're monitoring and using the studies, that the 12 years of research and baseline data to be able to be part of a science to management loop. We have traditional knowledge, of course, and still very much use and practicing closures and already traditional conservation efforts in terms of closing areas for aggregation of fish and such. We have sustainable finance. We are a trust. Micronesia Conservation Trust does provide funding. We hold funding that we can then give out in the future for the future needs of the people of Micronesia. We support policy, so we have to have all of this. We have to use the science in order to support the policies around what's important. And I didn't say is that the fisheries decline is not just climate; it's also people induced. So you have to battle those two things at the same time. So we have a lot of policy around that. And then our project for the Adaptation Fund is a small grants program. And I think that is perhaps innovative, or was innovative, when we first received the funding from the Adaptation Fund. We are one of the first three. I think Costa Rica, who's here with us, Zambia in South Africa, and MCT were the first three nationally implementing entities that were able to convince the Adaptation Fund, who very, very openly and happily accepted our pressure to allow us to fund small grants, which means I think the innovation in that is that our project did not say what we were going to fund when we applied for the funding. We provided indicative lists of things that we would fund, for instance, policy, development of planning, NBS solutions, coastal planting, all sorts of enforcement. And then we said what we wouldn't fund: seawalls. We won't fund things that are not NBS. And I think that's an important aspect of our innovation. The project components, but I think I'm just going to close with two things. The first thing is that I think that the innovation for us is joining all of these things that already existed and enhancing them through funding that's now available through Adaptation Fund, Green Climate Fund, and such. I also think that the lessons learned for us is the importance of acknowledging already established mechanisms. For some reason, locally led adaptation, while it's important and it's very much something that we're starting to see in the climate conversations, somehow it's always associated with risk. And recognizing that there is risk in innovation, and recognizing there is risk in a lot of the work we do, I think we have to consider that narrative. We have to switch it around, and we have to acknowledge and appreciate what's already there and enhance it. And I think the second lesson learned is that there's no magic bullet. Innovation and adaptation, as I think we've all been saying the first 2 days of this conference, is that it requires trust, it requires patience, it requires listening, and it is all about human beings. And I think sometimes we get away from that Where I live and the work that I do, I'm really lucky in that every day I'm with the people that, the fishermen and such. And and every day I see climate impacts. So it's not far from my narrative. But I think sometimes it's easy when we get into the larger climate areas and foray to forget that. And so I think the most important thing is not to ignore what's already there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Samara. Thank you very much, the all speakers. And I think we already learned that actually innovation can come from technology innovation, as actually offered by Gina and Saleh, and of course, some financial solution, and of course, natural solution like offered by our friend Andres Luis Gonzalez, and also from the one from Bhutan. I already negotiated with people on the ground that I want to add like 5 minutes because I knew that actually people actually here are all experts. So if you want to ask or to have a comment, short comment, feel free. I have been given 5 minutes additionals. Please. Otherwise, I can ask some of them to have like concluding remarks. No takers? Yes? One? Please. You can.
I'm so happy to be here, and I've gained a lot of knowledge on innovations, adaptation to climatic changes. But my question is this. I am Dr. Adora Patient Onwuka. I'm coming from University of Port Harcourt Teaching Hospital, and I've worked in the hospital for over 20 years now. And 2 years or 3 years ago, we were at the front line fighting COVID-19. And I know that COVID-19 was as a result of climatic changes. And the most hit areas are the temperate regions compared to tropical regions. So in our research so far, we found out that climatic changes have a lot to do with the spread of SARS, that is severe acute respiratory diseases, and COVID-19 is one of them. And mine is this: all this while I've been listening to a lot of presentations, I am thinking of the area of health, the effect of climatic changes on health. Because if you don't have good health, there is no way you can indulge in any other program like agriculture and all that. So if you don't check the effect of the climatic changes on health, is a misnomer. So that is a contribution I'm making, and we should do more research on that, and I'm interested. So if I can be carried along, I'm a researcher. That is why I'm here. For 3 days, I came out on Sunday to come for this conference. I've been on air for 3 days. I landed yesterday night, so I missed the master classes and all that, and I'm not happy about it. So I'm joining for the first time today. So I want to make my own impact because I have a lot of research I've done on health, even on COVID-19. But here we're talking about agriculture, climatic change and agriculture, drought and all that. We should equally work on our health, the health-related changes, the climatic changes have done to human health. Thank you very much.
Well noted. Yes. Otherwise, I ask someone, and actually you can make one more. If there is no, then you go. Please. Yes.
Okay, it's a very short comment. It's what I've observing among farmers. It's anxiety. Whenever it starts to rain in my region or to strong winds, they become more anxious, anxiety. That's what we've been observing in the region that I live. So, yeah, I completely agree with you, and yeah, it's right.
Yeah, please.
There is a lot of research going on about health and the impacts of climate change on health. Maybe it wasn't represented in this session here, but I think there are other sessions in the conference that talk about the impacts of climate change on health.
And I thank you very much. Let's accompany me to give a round of applause to the 6 speakers. And thank you for the host, the Adaptation Fund, and the UNDP, and of course, Eleanor. Thank you all. And very sorry for being very, very harsh on time.